야, 다 서벨로. 난데 서로 소지.
So we will continue from our reading of chapter 6, the chapter on forbearance, and we will read from stanza 31. And this is on page 65. Yeah.
대저 이제 신기왕 대왕의 대왕에 대저 신의 주대 뭐고도 초민주 시대되게 디실과 다른데 이게 따라 지금 민주배 이게다 남주 용대야 민주배 자와 용대야 생각을 돼 상황으로 땡겨온 그래 모두변대가 되리 막까 라옹 요 말이 사트마 줍체 대들 참제 가서다 가다 균제 땡지기 정신기다 최대 삼월로 규이 상황전에 규대에 랑기 규이 상황전에 전에 인도산에 다다다대 민주변내주디에 중감하면 지기다 제거되는 용대야. 다가는 태도에 지 튀년배 그냥 게임하고 지금 떠네 용대야. 그래서 이제 이번 인도산에 대왕의 대왕이 무준되고 통이 들잖아. 대부상에 가인이 라마보다 용대야지 차대기 아래. 그래서 이제 인도산에 저들이 뭐 인도 대들시 라마보다 에스 대들시니 주된 시대다 되기 다 경제 된중 뒤따라 손 경제 된중 뒤 접시를 거지 아니 때문에 라왕도 주고야 말이 말한솔로 라왕도 오는 것도 가 능기도디 대응 엄마라 견서 두모 초게 되는 용대야지 공단을 쏘는 신 경제 땡지 두모씩 손에 팔을 잡고 추도랑 잘했다. 되는 땡주 동벌 샷 쏘는 시리샤. 그래서 리면 이르잖아요. 다 리인도 나와다도 못 주고. 아니 죽었다 그래스. 와, 유모도 죽었다. 죽었을잖아요. 그 현지 거셔지. 그러랑 라왕 주도 주고 뭐 그 현지 주셔. 현지 거셔. 그래서 리이르잖아요. 상당히 다다도 급대 다가다 냠바리 소소 콘로사세 유 깽에 버티 삼월로 그 깽을 때는 용대바 죽었다 그래스 뒤응도 전에 대저신의 주대로 무국군의 초민교로 세네. 디소. 다원은 상불에 아니 주버더래 상불셔리에 심지어 주버더래 엔 텔레 저거야케미도가 동네디에 주버더 이두선에 제 동네디 나와라 미수고야케미도가 슬라바이나 디샴디 근시 관계 도차데 도왕을 민셔너스 도저 동네 도지다 가서를 그게 지금 참발로 써. 지들 체디에 양은 도저 공조 봐. 뒷 도지 지금 참바. 대 주문도 물어봤어. 자들이 이전에 인도 그렇게 믿고 갔으나 뒷 말에 잘 때는 동네는 균식 균주 미직 메스. 가사. 해지 그거 주소입니다. 당연히 지도 rum도 돼. 간다시 때문에 아마 주니 시행도 있잖아요. 통보대 머리 걸어 봐. 그 치즈로 올라오래도 봐. 이내 치즈로 딘디지 그게 레지 사서도잖아요. 레테 단 제부 동네들이 그걸 패널이 되는 게 있고 용대하죠. 그 두고도 댐바지지 말해. 그 가서 우리 그게 치즈로 올라오셔야 돼요. 이내 그런 건 아니죠. 일이 써야 나로래야. 네. 그게 패닝에서 용대지 참말로 치지 말고 원래 저렇게 되면도 와. 그다음 지단으로 셔베이나 양다고도 이디 로 소르네베 토네 용대야. 로 릉시베 토네 용대야 망체 배지 참만 샤초리. 다 차당로서 딘제기 관계 용대베 이디 파 야구 삼다바이나 다 주변 지단시에는 주변로서 도그래라. 다들 14고천은 친실로 올로 딘제광이 온대지. 그래서 세면 흉내 배정을 안서 뇌제 디기드 참으로 세면적으로 쓰네. 응원도 내린이자로 세면적으로 쏘는 것도 봐. 천대 바로 쉐베 되네. 세면적으로 바로 마셔베 세면적으로 바로 마셔베 세면적으로 써냐 또 사오래. 저들이 인도산에 레드고 친실로 올로지 그 레드 산에 드부미르서는 꼭 패는 것을 제대로 시켜도 와. 그래서 되게 댐바 매버리티 이내 가서래. 댐버 셴딩에 로치질로 대왕게 대부 패는 제대로 지고 용야래 진짜 뒤잖아. 여도 와. 그래서 탄이세야 신들게 다되게 땅도세야. 샤마되게 차도세야 소리도 와. 야는 따게 다른 답을 못 줘래. 탄이도
So we read from stanza 31 where Shantideva writes that thus everything is dependent on something else, and even that on which something is dependent is not autonomous. Hence, why would one get angry at things that are inactive, like apparitions? So here, earlier we discussed how, having presented all the factors that give rise to anger, the conditions and so on, as arising within the context of complex network of causes and conditions. We also talked about how Shantideva raises the possible objection from the standpoint of non-Buddhist classical Indian schools that postulate the notion of an absolute agency as being the primary cause. So here, what Shantideva is presenting is that when, for example, something like anger arises in us, anger has its own underlying causes that may go very far. But even within its immediate circumstances, there are many factors that give rise to the anger. So, in a sense, these afflictive emotions arises without any sense of control on the part of the person who is experiencing them. And so with respect to the perpetrators of harm who engage in harmful actions out of these afflictive states, one can recognize that in a sense they have no control. You know, they're all totally subject to the forces of the causes and conditions. And then Shantideva explains that once you recognize this utterly contingent and dependent reality of the arising of these afflictions, then you will come to recognize a kind of a quality that is more like a conjuration, It's more like a mirage. So when you say apparitions, or when you say particularly conjuration, which is probably a better term, then immediately it creates the idea of something that is kind of falsely constructed. So once you come to recognize that, then he explains that one will not feel such anger towards these factors. And then one can raise the question, if that is the case, then the same must be true also of the more positive mental states such as loving kindness, compassion, and so on. Wouldn't these also be like apparitions? Wouldn't these also be like mirages? Because they too will be utterly contingent. So in that case, why should one cultivate compassion? Why should one be concerned about the sufferings of others? So here, Shantideva responds in stanza 32, averting anger is inappropriate for who averts what? What is appropriate because it is a state of dependent origination and is considered to be the cessation of suffering. So Shantideva is responding here by saying that yes, these positive mental states too are utterly dependent origination, and they too are, as explained before, subject to the dependent origination of causes and conditions. However, because the sufferings and the afflictions are rooted in a state of mind that is distorted, and once the distortion arises, it creates the action, and the action has consequences that impact upon the individuals who experience it. Say, for example, in the 60 stanzas of Nagarjuna, Nagarjuna explains that within the chain of 12 links of dependent origination, the first link is ignorance. And ignorance indicates a state of mind that is distorted with respect to the nature of reality. And as a result of that distortion, although that ignorance itself is incorrect in its perception of the world, but because of the distortion, it creates action, karmic action. And the karmic action has real consequences of harm and benefit to the person who has committed it. So therefore, although when you search for the intrinsic nature, these actions and so on may not be findable, but given the distortion that is involved, it creates karmic action, and these actions have consequences. So Shantideva has explained here, basically explaining the illusion-like nature of reality. So although they are devoid of inherent existence, but yet at the same time they do have consequences. Therefore, they have a reality, they have existence. So in this way, the extremes of absolutism and extremes of nihilism are both negated. So, and also if we examine our everyday life, we can see that many of the things that we do that are wrong are actually rooted in some false way of understanding reality. So for example, when we react negatively and emotionally to events out of aversion, anger, attachment, and so on, then these actions are grounded in a perspective that is quite contrary to the actual nature of reality. However, many of the things that we successfully achieve in our life, they tend to be more rooted in a perspective that is more in accord with reality. Therefore, in the Buddhist epistemological texts, many of our achievements are referred to as fruits of knowledge. And for example, the epistemological text speaks of fruits of knowledge that are uninterrupted fruits and interrupted fruits. The notion of interrupted fruits is quite a complex one, but the point is that all the achievements that we are seeking and that we experience are either directly or indirectly results of a knowledge and understanding.
Yeah. So, Tata Tamja Shenjiwang said that the 어떤 도랑이야 양라신 수행도잖아요. 디에베 디중스. 디케베 다 디케베 자자고에네 나저에네 같이 하게 만든다. 디에바는 디중. 디케바는 디케. 다 강머리고 야는 두시 신다 송샤. 두민 두치는 두시 신다 송샤. 어디도 그 깨는 라를 송도와 상모로 깨이 왕용도 시다 송대도.
So in Shantidevas 31, stanza number 31, he says that thus everything is dependent upon something else. So this echoes the statements made by the Buddha in his scripture sutra on dependent origination, where he makes the following three statements, where he says that this existed, therefore that exists, because this has arisen, therefore that arises. Conditioned by ignorance, a volitional act arises. So in these statements in the sutra, Buddha explains conditioned by ignorance, volitional acts, which is the cause of suffering, arises. So in these three statements, Buddha explains the utterly dependent nature of everything, how everything is totally dependent upon other factors, factors of condition.
대외 장 자양로 미릭셔고 통주는 딘제견의 교도시 자자손데 대화는 단지 유지순도 대외 장 자양로 순주전에 자시티 자도가 저주전에 배지 언제 더 처진에 자다 양은 자오 라는 미릭셔고 통주는 딘제견의 교도시 자자손데 대화는 다양 직전은 미리시버서리 술에 자주 가지고 있는 거야. 그러나 잘하면 시다. 자올면 되차. 이 덴베 캐버도 전에 아니 당연히 로직다. 잘 닝녀 로직고 차이도 전에 뒤 리버도 medebe 차이도 와. 자, 근데 이 전에 뒤 로직다 제일 전에 되고 깬데 교듯이 깬 장로 되는 좋은지 쉐베이나 담바 속도를 매듯이 통용도 이 차단 거지 수중으로 돼. 진짜지 인도 다 패지 뭐였네 치매지 쉐베거네 그런 상부 따대야 내가 따대야 이 패지 디디어다고 디 더스 그룹도 뭐 쉬워 찾았으면 봐. 다 수투베 담바 지금 대바지 캐바도 전에 아니 유상에도 또 있잖아요. 대단에 아니 주미식 남도 좋다네. 아니 심도 뭐쇼셔야 차이모도. 사진이 인도 수트들 시베 관에 아니 심 대원내시.
So, and then we read in stanza 33, where Shantideva writes that therefore, upon seeing a friend or an enemy committing a wrong deed, one should reflect, such are his conditions, and be at ease. So here, we can read this stanza in the manner in which Shantideva explains that when someone who is a friend or an enemy creates a condition for the arising of negative actions negative emotions such as hatred, then you perceive not only the emotions but also the deeds being done by the others as having arisen purely out of conditions. Then in this way, one can reduce the let go of the negative reactions to them. But one can also read this stanza in a way in which the reference to friends can be associated with the arising of attachment, and reference to enemy as in relation to the arising of aversion or anger or hatred in us. So generally speaking, it is in relation to friends that attachment arises, and to foes that anger and aversion arises, and underlying them there is a grasping at some notion of an intrinsically real property of desirableness or undesirableness, and based upon that, the afflictions arises. Generally, when one's perception of desirableness or goodness or badness is in consonant with the actual fact, that simple perception of something being good and something being bad does not lead to a strong reactive emotions to the event. So there is nothing wrong with that. Where the kind of dysfunctional element comes in is because of the grasping. So based upon perception of quality of desirableness or quality of goodness, then we exaggerate that quality based upon an assumption of an intrinsic reality of that object and the qualities that we perceive, and then that leads to what is referred to as the inappropriate attention to that object, which then give rise to a projection, kind of a exaggeration of qualities, which then give rise to the actual emotions themselves. So whether it is in the context of attachment or in the context of afflictions. So once you come to recognize that all the factors that give rise to these emotions are simply products of mere conditions, then the emotional reactions in the form of strong attachment and aversion and anger will not arise. And so Shantidevas is saying that in that sense, one will be able to remain within a sense of ease.
다 드리샴 데 마치나 수수든지 강선 요모 왕유에 덕도니 이제 수여셔봐 대지다 신료는 느미셔가 시대죠. 요모 계배 대다고 dak소나서 쇼고를 닝지 잘라 맞이나 좋은 좀 지 터지스. 제니 다 요모의 왕게 소소소의 배는 롱랑체 이는 라소제야 이거도 봐. 소소소 배는 안서 배직배 마사주디. 당연히 유도 좀 디셔야 되고 그래. 아무리 하사야 디셔는 못 동네지. 그런 거 말을 해. 신이 롱랑샤래. 님이 뭐라 와대 뭐도 뛰어를 쉬어 시다를 스탄체 뭐라 와 주디샤. sen motor dia social tese 진실이야 그런 가서 모자 와는 주의 아니시래 그럼 어떻게 더 모자 와대 아니 롱란체 뭐 답죠 접시 그 코레 고 나스다 정을 그러거든 이 모자 근데 뭐 진짜야 그래서 왔다 뉴문배니 다나 저도 됐어야 돼 뉴문 집에 저도 dakso 나서 쉬고라 콘도 사이드스네 그게 뭐도 정서를 이렇게 삼는 거 그거 말다 그러면 콘도사도 곧 될체 맞다 들으셔 딱 제대로 제천데 dakso라서 쉬고라 닝지지야 유지스 아치 닝제다 소소 라완 차이체 대원 기타도 소는 시리 대원 등에 스타시마도 등에 수치게 아마르디 얘네 그 뉴문배 샤원도 선에 땡기 그 등에 줄이야 그 주대도 와 스타 닝제 삼네
So we read in stanza 37, Shantideva writes, when under the influence of afflictions, they kill even their own dear selves in this way, then how could they have restraint towards the bodies of others? So this is very true. We know that in the heat of anger and strong hatred, one can even commit the most destructive act upon oneself that would involve the committing of suicide and the killing of oneself. This, in fact, reminds me of a story which I have often shared with others. When I was a young child growing up in Lhasa, we had a driver who was a bald head, and one day he was repairing the car by lying underneath the car. And in some way that he accidentally bumped his head, but he was a rather short-tempered man. So because of this, when he banged his head, he got so angry, he started deliberately banging his head on the car. Of course, the one who's going to lose is his head and himself, not the car. So this is, this is the consequence of giving in to such intensity of affliction such as anger. So Shantideva therefore writes that if you do not even have compassion towards those who, intoxicated by afflictions, commit suicide, then why does anger arise? So Shantideva is pointing out here that in dealing with, in the face of sentient beings who engage in such actions that cause harm, instead of feeling aversion and anger and hatred, one should truly feel compassion for them, because as explained before, there isn't a single sentient being that does not wish for happiness and that deliberately seeks suffering. So in that respect, all sentient beings are same. So when you confront beings who act in such a destructive manner, responding with anger is the inappropriate. Actually, one should remember the fact that these sentient beings also wishes happiness and wishes to overcome suffering, and on that basis, one should feel compassion. So one should respond with compassion rather than anger.
The lubduk, yang shole, lubduk an suggestion to what dinalia. Rangdun nöje la tangna, wana ningji kangdu jo.
So
that kati shandun jigwala ningji meba sushi chuks. Tang azo jidan mi pabaji chö mengege miji, da chö mishingege bena miji beine ya. Ko shen la jigwa chumba ina sem chuk ma res. Rang la jigwa chi midi waji yongdu zane sem chuk rwa asta. Diji tang azo chöbaji rwa as. Chöbaji yongdu zane da rang la jigwa yongbe kado la sem chuk ya ga tsab la tel ningji ge ga res. Dati da kanda nyen la zawa paba le yonggu re. Shantideva
in fact explains in Shiksha Samuchaya, a compendium of training, where he says that if you compare Dhamma practitioners with ordinary people, the difference is that the ordinary people, when they are confronted with danger and suffering, then they become disturbed and respond to this. They feel unbearable and feel disturbed. Whereas when they see others who are not related to them undergoing such suffering, their attitude is different. So he says that insofar as being, concerned about the suffering of those who are close to us is concerned, and this is something that everybody does. What should distinguish a Dhamma practitioner is that Dhamma practitioner should also be concerned about suffering of even their own enemies. So Shantideva explains that in the Shiksha Samuchaya, compendium of training.
Da dinema kati shen la tsesheva sayade da rang zhawe rang le ji naba chedadi ene chibe rang shin re kante na dinde da che ya ya ngö de gyube ko ne da ji zhawe rang le ya ji chön phen ba ro ji du meng yu sa ne ne ji khedu ngö so ne gen de chön ja re gyu ne gen de ni 강사 대규의 시탄들이 먼저 무슨 내게 천재대에 맞춰 천재대 평에 강사 대규의 요문들이 맞춰 이 파스나 때 강사들을 쳐야 돼 좀쯤도 봐 안다 강사 거를 인지해야지 또 초과해야 돼 시간을 초과해 그렇죠 어떻게 지지부만 숨는 거래
So from stanza 39 on, Shantideva explains the various contemplations that would help us deal with anger and hatred in us. So for example, when you confront someone who is causing harm towards you, then you reflect upon the kind of the childishness of the character of their strong negative emotions. And furthermore, when you confront such individuals, Shantideva explains thought processes that would analyze where that, what is the deserving object of our wrath or our anger, and to what should our anger be directed. And Shantideva points out that if you look at the immediate cause of harm that we are experiencing, then it is the weapon that is being used by the other person. And if you think about the underlying cause that gives rise to this harm, causes this harm, then it is the strong negative emotions present in the heart of that person who is doing it. Somehow we exclude these two factors and we choose the person who is in between as the target of our anger and hatred. So Shantideva points out illogicality of this and presents an line of thinking where instead of responding to the person out of anger, one should respond to the person, relate to the person out of compassion. So these kind of thought processes and contemplations are presented in the subsequent stanzas.
So usually, I make clear the action and actor. As far as action is concerned, if injustice action or harmful action, we have to oppose. We have to take appropriate countermeasure. But as far as the actor is concerned, a still sentient being, human being, and by basically, I think, more gentle nature, there's great potential of compassion as a human being. So therefore, if you keep positive attitude towards the person, in spite of opposing their action, there's always possible the person become your friend, or at least neutralize.
Neutral. No.
So keep compassion towards that person. And more deeper way, you have to act as a countermeasure towards his or her motivation, anger, hatred, or jealousy. Yang chadil che, jabadil, 또 서브스잖아. 바르베 semrame bachingegi, sheba nedo mene bachingegi, nyomolo che. Tini bara mede chen government.
So the appropriate response to act with the opposition would be immediately to the action that is being committed by that person. But on a more deeper level, if one wishes to oppose and take a firm stand, then it should be also to the underlying mental states, such as the anger and hatred of the person, that somehow makes that individual lose his or her control. So it is to that we should target our opposition.
But then, Shologa, Shivdun, Sheke, Shirgu, this would take Chig, because Panushi does in the Lady Gurus, rather only a charge of they do charge of part of the Chachul Tene. So the Indians and Rangi, they do saw on that day, Rang Lejon. So I do the part of the Tenji City or Mato, Rang Lady Gurus, Chati. So the Indians and Rang Lady Guni, part of the never charge. The Indians and part of the Rang never check, part of the Lanesa, rather being the Lanesa. Rang some Tonshana. 하루를 내버쳐 될 때는 서버검체 선언토. 그래서 드네인들 랑게 세배 냠는 영향을 하루를 내버 잡아되기 규칙을 땡셔로다. 그래서 드네인들은 뭐냐잖아. 소수 넣어야 돼. 소수 하루를 랭해서야 유체가 이르잖아요. 하루를 년로를 돼야기 땡해체. 나도 손 내버치게 될 means what come out with the Konga Gadisha. So the day the money the Punjang and the Chatisas. Is over again. So the day in the Sane, Chijolo to G, Moron Simcu Chase.
So in stanza 47, 48, and 49, Shantideva is explaining a thought process that states that if you actually reflect more deeply, one will come to recognize that the harm that is being perpetrated by others is ultimately also a result of your own karma, because as an immediate result of the harm that is inflicted upon you, you experience suffering. And generally, one's own experiences of suffering and happiness are consequences of one's own past karma. So in actual fact, the real causes of the experience of suffering that you are facing in the face of someone causing you harm is really your own karma, and the other person's action becomes an immediate condition that facilitates for that cause to come into fruition. So therefore, Shantideva was explaining that furthermore, insofar as that other person is concerned, because of his committing of a harmful action directed against you, he or she creates a new negative karma, which the results of which he or she will have to face in future, including possibly a rebirth in an unfortunate lower realm. However, insofar as the oneself is concerned, because of the harm created by the other person, an opportunity has been created for us to actually cultivate and apply and develop our practice of forbearance. So, in other words, from one's own point of view, the fact that the other person has caused harm has created a positive opportunity. However, in this interaction, the other person happened to lose because the other person has created a new negative karma. And in this transaction, in fact, you have become a condition for that other person's committing of a negative karma that the person will have to face the consequences in future. So in this sense, we become the source of that other person's downfall, while the other person becomes a source of goodness for us because of our practice of forbearance. So isn't that way of viewing this event quite excellent? So Shantideva explains this. So then he writes, for example, in stanza 49, "It is I alone who harm them, and they are my benefactors. Wicked mind, why do you misconstrue this and become angry?" So up to stanza 52, Shantideva has explained various contemplations that we can apply to deal with situations where someone is causing an immediate harm on our body at the physical level. And from stanza 52, Shantideva is explaining various contemplations that one can apply to deal with situations where someone is causing us harm, a feeling of hurt at the level of our mental states, such as by using insulting words or disparaging us or undermining the basis of our fame and basis of our livelihood and so on. So in these cases, Shantideva presents the ways in which one can deal with these situations as well.
축주 입시 축주 입시네 구수 최전 담절라 최신 기본 이걸 쳐봐라 다 되는마 다 랑을 타가 넣으면요 다 랑게 그게 때문에 얘네 디시셔본다 지금 윤도 라마도 들려야 지다 그 넣어치네 다 대술래야 뭐 쳐야 용도 왔다 어다 대술 쳐지 말이야 다가 년라 다 민도 쳐봐 다 대다게 되면 쳐야 돼 거기 와서 다시 니들은 다게 년지셔 어디지
So
대달 never 쳐봐 뒤준제도 제대 never 쳐게 내지들이야 다게 셔다운 미리데 산절라서 내면아
So in stanza 64, Shantideva explains again contemplations that one can apply to deal with situations where others might be causing harm to something that is dear to us, not necessarily directly related to our body and mind, but something that is dear to us, such as the Tathagatas for a Buddhist practitioner, the Buddhas, and the three jewels, the representations of the three jewels, and so on. Because in this chapter, Shantideva is explaining how one needs to respond to situations which we may perceive to cause harm or undermine our own well-being or the well-being of someone that we care, and which generally tends to give rise to a feeling of discontent and frustration resulting in anger and strong reactive actions. So here, for example, in 64, Shantideva writes, my hatred towards those who revile and violate images, stupas, and the sublime dharma is wrong because the Buddhas and the like are free of distress.
Lamanya soba tang shel neba cheba lang ngame chugi kendale gyurton chondo.
So he writes, for example, in stanza 65, as in the preceding case, one should ward off anger towards those who injure spiritual mentors, relatives, and friends by seeing this as arising from conditions.
다디 shukde chuchu rigudinda. chuchu rigudi 대단 통에 진행이 탐제 평균 잠심수 요대다 나가니 손다다 dim지 차스. 배는 김지 교배미 김신식도 손에니 자서 강의 제시가 되니 충전도 디시카는 생산이 시단면이 제기고 손을 치고 도와 되니 대멸로 돌.
So then he writes in stanza 69, realizing this, I shall strive for virtues in such a way that all will have loving thoughts towards each other. And then he writes, when fire spreads from one burning house to another, one should bundle up the straw and the like and take it out and discard it. And then likewise, when the mind burns with the fire of hatred due to attachment, one should immediately cast it aside because of the fear of burning the body of merit.
No, yeah, that. Tati, tati nama cheche. Then di ni judo wa, ta geju tibdumati. Pampu be. Kati tashi megana tela kyogor jishi, kyuji yemin samjini tela nebe gyurmin yos. 다 미고 좋은데 그 거부치야 돼요 말이스. 다른 즉 담으시면 좀더 소소 거부치셔 되기 잘 내가 기분도 왔어. 대소도 마세베나 셔다운스 라베이나 디 바로 볼 랑기 규기 셔다운 되게 태가 바로 볼 내가 가게면 와. 셔다운 라베 되게 때는 바로 자디 야 그로직 상로베 신지부터 nem지베이나 디 rāngla nāpa chāpa gyōnsiddha chidhī rāngi bē sīm chūp chē bē nyāmbē sōch dāba yīna kō gyāma shōgurdā sā dhīrī yīndī sāni tēng ngā mē chāni yīmē yīna yāng shēdāng lāng chē sōsū nī yé mā kū 아니 세 맞다 처음에도 소 차베이나 경소소럽도 와. 생 저는 이거 좀 유시해 되겠다. 뭐네 집이나 다 농촌에 말아봤지. 아니 다 나가로 근데 쇼도 와. 아니 야오 상담이나 뒤 얘기를 마도 초에라도 초에 뒤前面이나 당나데 소소심 시들라데 지금 경마도 매버데. 숨도 돼.
So we read in stanza 87, which I think is quite excellent, when Shantideva writes, if something unpleasant happens to your enemy, would your satisfaction make it happen again? It would not happen merely due to your desire, without a cause. So, for example, when in the face of misfortune experienced by your enemy, when you derive a sense of satisfaction and joy, and this is not going to have any actual physical effect, or damaging effect upon the enemy. Furthermore, if you react negatively with hatred to emotion, with that emotion to your enemy, that negative emotion that you have experienced, hatred that you harbor in you, is not going to have again any physical effect, actual harm on that enemy. On the contrary, because of the arising of this affliction, arising of this hatred in you, it immediately undermines your own sense of composure and peace of mind. So, in fact, if your enemy is someone who is actually a quite intelligent person, then when he or she sees you being totally disturbed because of your deep hatred and strong hatred, will actually see you as a source of laughter and derive satisfaction from that. But on your part, because of being so caught up in this emotion of strong emotion, you will lose your sleep, and also you will lose your appetite, and so in actual fact, it is you. It is you who is going to be the loser. So on the contrary, and this is partly a joke, I often tell people that if you really need to get back to someone, get back at someone, and you can do that much more effectively with a calm, kind of calculated and measured state of mind. Whereas if you try to get back at someone in a totally disturbed and agitated state of mind, then often what you do may not be very successful.
Adi shamde tama chomchina da shugu shologa gyadu chumi dun 이소 gyadu chumi dun de 대외 내외 뭐로be kim도 때는 좀 왔다 정주 주변 조수교 다 라는 내가 챙겨 다디 라는 내가 챙겨 다 자이직 지금 미니버 쪽에 지금 마라톤게 지금 와다 저 제디 당번에 저는 랑기 가다 인지 관발라 인지 약게 동안라 인지 커도 그게 즉 가서 그게 객칭을 셰당해 셰당기 커도 그게 동네로 생겨도 쇠발해 근데 이르잖아요 쇠배냐니 전체거다. 쇠배냐면 영화라 너지를 쇠배기를 너지를 미는 쇠배 용구를 마도 저는 지시적으로 미는 쇠배냐면 영 말이 랑이 계신이 미는 쇠배냐면 용구 말이 쇠배냐면 랑이 년 때는 하면도 쇠배냐면인데 가다 너지를 때는 다 용구도 와. 쇠배냐면 전체고 근데 이르잖아요 쇠배냐면 강전에 너지티 다 최냐면 신에게 다 저 개치슈지 전주 쩌면 저주에
So we then read stanza 107, where Shantideva writes, therefore, since my adversary assists me in my Bodhisattva way of life, I should long for him like a treasure discovered in the house and acquired without effort. So this is very true. For example, since we are talking about these practices in the context of a Bodhisattva practitioner who seeks to implement the Bodhisattva ideals, the presence of one's adversary who causes harm to us becomes very important factor element in that practice, because one of the key objects of the practice of Bodhisattva practitioner is the cultivation of compassion, and one of the most obstructive mental states for the arising of compassion in us is hatred and anger, and the most powerful antidote that directly undermines hatred and anger is forbearance. So therefore, for a Bodhisattva practitioner, there is no other way but to develop and cultivate forbearance. And however, the cultivation of forbearance requires a presence of someone who does you harm, an adversary. One cannot cultivate and practice forbearance in relation to the Buddhas, the Tathagatas. One cannot cultivate forbearance in relation to one's spiritual teachers, nor one's friends and so on. So the only person who gives us the opportunity to really develop and enhance our capacity for forbearance is the perpetrator of harm, whom we deem to be our enemy or adversary. So therefore, Shantidevas is pointing out that from this point of view, the enemy is truly a teacher, a spiritual teacher for the practitioner of the Bodhisattva path.
That is what Jadachumike didn't target Drubenas, Teda Chanju Drubal, Memirungi, Savanyam Ninte, and Down Digi, Yenshe, Telemine, Susuda, Sabatruti. Chidu, Down de Rank Sava, Gizilu Chow. Could you check it, Zane? Could you check it, the Gizit? Gizil, no, you pandogs the door. So the Indusane, Ranginam Ninte, pandogs Chowa. So the Indusane did a dog, driven, Tissus 7, Dragoni, did a Tomor Darvede, did a tennis survey too. Diane dish would they, Georgilia, or the Dawa Ralia, and Pemba Sabake Omar was. Pemberton took Sabake Omar was. The Hanish Pendu Sabachin, Julia, Chick Savannah Leon, Chet Mine, Pendon took Sambe, Niako Kemar was. The day in Duzane, get to suit some maybe, done the church and mention us. The Drubayan Duron, Tambechu, Chitch, Tambechu, Gobetamba. The Hanish Tamangus, Lamji Tamba, Degaralia, Gobetamba the Semedi. Cora Kazakazongi, Mega Shadi. Tell a pendu looking ever. Rank you need Casale, Pen on the Hankameva. Dagana Shingi, Damamusu Tontangi, Lord Chashane, Lord Tega, Rankami, Lord you give him out, Lord Tears on a pen on the looking door. So the Indusane, Drubayin Duron, temperature, Jitch, Yimiji Pensim Gomage in Beina, and temperature, temperature, Golam you with the Zivina, Pensim came to us. Now, did they ready in it, Dalai never changed a lot to us. Pensim never, that is the best of to in it, that Dalai nursing to us. Get it done, nurture, somebody ever in the church mentions, membership to pension, Dagus of Ashton. No new children in it, Pendu Sambe Shavin, tell a driving to Member, and the Chick Lakoto, the Ningsta, Jolos, and Nings at Tushizane, they go Bango Ding, and to some Chimua. Sakokare, none do look at Yamada. Pendu Sambe Chivar. So the Duzane, membership to pension, Dagus of Ashton. So nursery ever Yinza, Zhao Chavi, Zhao Chavi in Duzane, so comes the Yuchel. Very good hold. Membership of Dagus of Ashton. Terror to Tansim, Dane, Sabakavan, Tini Savet, you Tambation, Chever. What is it?
So in stanza 108, Shantideva explains that Thus, he and I have obtained the fruit of patience. It should be given to him first, for patience is caused by him. So, as explained before, in order for us to have the opportunity to enhance our practice of forbearance, the role of our adversary or enemy becomes very crucial. Therefore, in a sense, our adversary or the enemy is really a condition or a cause for the further development of our forbearance, practice of forbearance. And since it is a cause or a condition, one of the characteristics of cause and condition is that which assist in bringing into being something else. So in a sense, it has a beneficial effect upon insofar as our practice of forbearance is concerned. So therefore, Shantideva was explaining that by acknowledging that the presence of the enemy and adversary is the key factor, key condition for the arising of forbearance in me. Therefore, when it comes to the enjoyment of the fruits of that quality, we should dedicate it to the enemy first. And then he raises possible objections to this in stanza 109. He says that, he writes, if an adversary does not deserve respect, because his intention was not that I accomplish patience, then why is the sublime Dharma honored? It too has no intention to be a cause of that achievement. So one may respond to the earlier argument by Shantideva by saying that yes, you are right, but at the same time, it is a fact that on the part of although the enemy, the adversary, provides a condition for us to cultivate forbearance, but on the part of the enemy and adversary, he had no intention of being of help to us. He has no motivation to help us, and therefore he is not worthy to be respected and honored. So in response, Shantideva says that if that is true, then why would a Dharma practitioner honor the Dharma jewel? Because the Dharma jewel does not have an explicit intention to help us, to be of benefit to us. So here when he is talking about Dharma jewel, he is referring to the true cessation, and cessation is a mere negation and cessation of the afflictions. So it is an absence. It has no mental quality in it, so it has no intention to in one way or another. So therefore, Shantideva is explaining, in that case, why would we honor this Dharma jewel, which has no intention? Similarly, the true path leading to the cessation is also part of the Dharma jewel, but the true path refers to the direct realization of emptiness and the direct realization of the truth. Again, within that, there is no explicit intention to be of benefit to us, but still, that does not reject the fact that does not preclude the fact that they are objects worthy to be honored. And then, again, in the next stanza, Shantideva responds to another possible objection. So where he writes, if an adversary is not respected because his intention is to cause harm, then for what other reason would I have patience towards him? If he is like a physician who is intent on my well-being, then here Shantideva entertains the possibility of another objection, saying that, okay, so he may have no intention to, cause me, bring me benefit, but actually it is the opposite. Our enemy has the explicit intention to cause harm to us, so therefore he is not someone deserving to be respected and honored. So here Shantideva says that this is exactly the point, because if the enemy does not have an explicit intention to cause us harm, we would not characterize his actions as being harmful and actions of an adversary. For example, he says that physicians may sometimes inflict harm upon us, but because they do not have the intention to harm us, we endure them and we accept them. So for example, if someone undergoes the transplantation of the heart, that the patient is not going to say, this horrible doctor cut my heart out, and going to be angry at that patient, angry at the physician. So Shantideva was pointing out the fact that the adversary has the explicit intention to cause us harm, what makes him adversary and makes him the condition, provided the condition for cultivating forbearance. So then in stanza 111, he says that thus, he concludes, thus forbearance arises only in dependence on that malicious intention. So he alone is the cause of my forbearance. I should respect him just like the sublime Dharma. So these arguments are actually quite sharp and penetrating. So then in stanza 112, we read, the sage has declared that the field of sentient beings is the field of the conquerors, because many have reached the highest fulfillment by honoring them. Then Shantideva presents a main summary, of the points when he writes in stanza 113. He writes, as the attainment of the Buddha's qualities is equally due to sentient beings and to the conquerors, how is it that I do not respect sentient beings as I do the Buddhas? And then we will move on to stanza 119.
Tomar, and then I get headed with some gentle. Chick to forget, Sarah, what gain, Thomas Simki, the dog turned to Kala Tamjachiagi, Simki. Pardo in it, the Ninda, Shandu, Druiaki, Tamjashashavati, Chimachishin, Dutuya, $10, Giuseppe Java, Casol Pugeta, to use in vision of Java's Jack. And tar some generation of Sanjay, Sanjay, Namji, Casol Gunduda, Zayudi, some general term, I don't say I'm ever. Simjam Kucham Matova, but said the day in Dusane, Tedder, any, the Jasa Java Talaya, she two Guya, the Condicuous Lona, Koranzo, Shevati, and the Chasha Tutuina, the Java gave a Chabama Timber, to the Chabama Timber. Not the day in Dusane. Simjam Gusha Mado was Shangashi Landing Gurus. That is about Tuzilia, Kanjil Kutun, Nami Juwa, the Tela, Panda, Landing Gurana, Tevandita, Nation and Tamja Samushu, Javaja, said, what a Shesoma Suni, Kandai, Sanya the Jusama Namji, Kangaton to Simki, Kangaton to Java, Kangaton to the San Java, and Jua Didi, Simjang Chili may do Zane, Maranzo, Tisha will give chi. Science is usable to give shit. Tada, chick to get on there, Simjadi, Yawatona, no do it. Why? Penangarans, you can have a chachane, so can you log out Michi, Drenchilla, Pugeta, Chipan, Castle Pevina. Don't the version of Diggy, quarter to the Mudibiche, Penacalaris, Dambina. So, then a 7 couple of shep, and drain the 7 in the government. What I mean, drain Dendishu, drain the Dendishu, Shiva, Dendishu, Jella, drain the most sugar. That he must know, and Maloro. Sangaranzo, Jawasa the Javalia, gives Chigiari, Jawasa the Javala, Tabachiari, so to give you Chigiari, give you Chigiana, did the Compotos to go. Then so Rangshil Madam. Did go to watch the one. Said the name is an Jawasa the Javan, can't turn to chick to forget up Gondeaki, Yamtag Simjay, Jim, Gunner, Devan, Devan, Dungamiduna, Dungan, and the Yet Theatre, Yavan Toyata, never shared a Pashani, Yavan, Danyushan, Dumari, that is so.
So in stanza 119, we read, apart from respecting sentient beings, apart from honoring sentient beings, what other repayment to true friends, the immeasurable benefactors, is possible. So what Shantideva is explaining here is that for someone who honors the Tathagatas, the three jewels, and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then it is most appropriate for them to also honor the sentient beings. Because if you understand properly, one will come to recognize that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all the Buddhas in the past have, at the initial stage, cultivated and generated the mind of awakening, bodhicitta, for the benefit of all sentient beings, with the intention of bringing about the highest welfare of sentient beings without any exception. And on the basis of that generation of the bodhicitta, then they embarked on the path and implemented the Bodhisattva ideals into their actual practices over a long period of time. And then finally, when they attain full enlightenment, the only task that they have and the only aspiration that they have is to bring about the welfare of other sentient beings. And if this is so, then for those of us who consider ourselves practicing Buddhists, who honor the three jewels, who have deep devotion and faith in the three jewels, and for us, then it is inappropriate to totally disregard the welfare of other sentient beings. So for those of us who honor the three jewels, who have deep faith in the three jewels, we need to, let alone reacting negatively and harboring ill will and causing harm, inflicting harms upon other sentient beings is totally unbecoming of us, but even to neglect the welfare of other sentient beings and be oblivious for their needs and for their well-being is also inappropriate for a practitioner who reveres the three jewels and who has deep devotion to the three jewels. So Shantideva was explaining that therefore, for those of us who consider ourselves such practitioners, we have to ensure that we do not give in to our habitual self-centered impulses, but rather to constantly care for the welfare of other sentient beings, which is the only concern that the Buddhas have. And even in the conventional kind of mundane sense, this is a kind of an honor that we need to accord. For example, if you invite a friend of someone who is very dear to you to your home as a guest for dinner or for a meal, and then if you truly care for your own beloved person, then you also need to respect the friend of that person who is important to this individual. So if that is the case, then when you invite them for a meal, and if you happen to be someone who loves chili, hot food, then being totally oblivious to the need of this guest who doesn't like chili at all, and you have all the food spiced with this hot chili, and that would be very inappropriate, because that would reflect that you did not really take into consideration the need of that special guest that you have who's important to the person whom you love. So in the same manner, the beings that the Buddhas care about are the sentient beings. So therefore, if we respect the three jewels, and particularly the Buddhas, then we also need to honor the sentient beings for whom the Buddhas have a great sense of caring. So then, in the stanza 120 onwards, then Shantideva gives all the reasons why this is important. So for example, he writes, one should render only service to those for whose sake they cut apart their bodies and enter the Avicii hill. Therefore, one should treat people kindly, even though they inflict great harm, and so on.
So this kind of thinking or practice, I think, is the same as a similar practice those followers of theistic religion. The entire creature created by God. who created us. So therefore, in order to respect Creator, we must respect entire creatures. And also we love God. We should extend our love to entire creatures. So it's similar. So these are, I think, common practice like that. That is the Shologan. That is the Tevedage Roland Necheve, Tuji Miki Kurbakan, Dignitarian, so Shaki, Miki Kana, Tidu Service, Tishin, Geva Kileto, Tene, Jitan, Tenduchi, Droma, Dobe, Dage, just talk, Gumjan, Jitan going
So then we will read stanza 124 and 25, where Shantideva writes, "Therefore, whatever pain I have brought to all those of great compassion by harming sentient beings, that non-virtue I now confess, may the sages forgive that which has aggrieved them. In order to please the Tathagatas, today with my entire being, I place myself in the service of the world. Let streams of people step on my head and strike me down. May the protector of the world be pleased."
That is should come there. Should that Shologan that is so done. Dini Tishinsheva Niji. That to which I shot did it. Rando Yanda Juban, Dinitos, Kasakechon Nashi, one at a wise selfish chicken, that is something at all. Rando Yanda Juban, Dinito. Jitan Tungesawan, Dinitos. One at Zamni Digi with Zamni Kona, that's something. Jumze Tedavena, Tede, Dage, Tatun Dini Cha.
So then the essence of all of this is really presented in a summarized form in stanza 127, when Shantideva writes, "This alone," referring to bringing about others' welfare, "this alone is pleasing to the Tathagatas. This alone is the accomplishment of one's own goal." So this, as I was pointing out yesterday, if you truly care for your for the fulfillment of your self-interest, then to be wise selfish is the best approach. So caring for the welfare of other sentient beings, Shantideva explains here that this alone is the accomplishment of one's own goal. This alone removes the sufferings of the world. Therefore, let this alone be my resolve. So this is very true because, through working for other sentient being, if one wishes to create a genuinely happy and peaceful world, that is also the most effective way to go about this.
That is something Shologa Dadusum Susum Dinda. That should Tundudi. Simjin Gully Chungi, Mount Sangian Ruptasho. Chindinila, Bajenta, Chada, Kinju, Jimaton. Tegish, Konduson and Shingi. And that is Kasuri Shan, Pabatuya, Loya, Gavina, Maumbe, Liata, nearly Tamjim Koban to Achanchandi, Tamjim Koban to never. Sendinilang, Chame Pugi, Dushin, Gulwe, the Bajenda, Nyanda, Tobata. Dagana Shin is so any Chashane, when a chick Kasan, the contribution of the Chishane, charge you simply dashing a Dana Devon Raji, giving him that given what's over. Then take somebody Kerachana, or that somebody giving him within it, one at Hanega, that tend to give it, Kibusutua. One that done it, that turned up at the king moment, that didn't so. The Indu Chata, Kindu, Jimatons. Tatian, several Chashane, Corse, Sube, Zesota, Name Bata, Taway, Shindu using Sota, Kolugu, they get top, Jesus of so what they do. To go.
So earlier I forgot one point that His Holiness made, that working for others' benefit is also from the practitioner of the Buddhist, from the point of view of a practitioner, it is the highest form of offering of realization that you can make to the Buddhas. And then we read in stanza 133 onwards, Shantideva is presenting now the grand summary of all the points. And when he writes, "Let alone future Buddhahood, do you not see that in this life, fortune, fame, and happiness ensue from pleasing sentient beings?" So he's explaining that the working for bringing about others' welfare and cultivating this altruistic mind focused on other sentient beings is not only a source of bringing about the attainment of the final goal of Buddhahood and true freedom, but even in this life. Because of altruistic practice and altruistic heart, others will be able to relate to you in a much more positive way. Your words will become credible. Your fame will increase. People will entrust themselves in you, and so on. And even from your own personal point of view, as cited earlier, when Shantideva says that, therefore, riding the horse of the awakening mind, which dispels all forms of weariness and discouragement, one travels from a place of joy to a place of joy. And what intelligent person would not embark on such a journey? So even from the point of view of one's own personal experience, clearly when one engages in this kind of altruistic practice, then truly one's own lasting happiness has just begun. A true happiness has just opened up, and also this will lead to a genuine, definitive happiness, a lasting happiness, and not only in this lifetime, but also it ensures lasting happiness from lifetime to from lifetime. So therefore, Shantideva writes in stanza 134, while transmigrating, a patient person attains beauty, health, charisma, long life, and the abundant joy of a universal ruler. So with that, the reading of the chapter on forbearance is completed.
So this 6th chapter, this practice seems to create basis or foundation of infinite altruism that mainly deal in the 9th chapter, or the 8th chapter. So this is very, very important. I always, those sincere practitioners, the Shantideva's book is very important, and particularly 6th chapter and 8th chapter, these two chapters are extremely important. So when we meditate, to combine these two, then I think, some positive result bound to happen. Like that. Now, 저장가 좀 더야기 개진 제체 전배도 균균이 제토는 아니 그거다 준주냐면 이거 용데 그래 근데 인도 대들어서에 준주 잡스 다 준주 잡을 거나 준주 잡나 계산 가야실로는 디저트로 장주네 된다 준주 잡발라 장주 누구를 마도 나도 넘기 집에 날이야 베스트 사진도 안 넘기다 quickest doctor, I think often is the question, the best way to achieve Buddhahood, or best way to achieve happy life. So then I think here, I often use it, teasing. There may be another word, the cheapest, easiest, cheapest to achieve happy life or Buddhahood. Then answer, naturally, no such things. We have to work hard. And eons hard. Then the final, from Buddhist viewpoint, is the final goal that Buddhahood can achieve. So there's no easiest way or cheapest way. So therefore, 나도 존중해야 돼. 니들 쩌는 창조 내 해야 돼.
So we now read from the beginning of the next chapter, the chapter on joyful perseverance or joyous effort. And Shantideva writes, thus one who has forbearance should cultivate perseverance, because awakening is established with perseverance, and there is no merit without zeal, just as there is no movement without wind. So what Shantideva is explaining is that for the practitioner who has cultivated and developed his practice of forbearance, then the joyful perseverance will arise quite easily. And earlier in the chapter, Shantideva talked about 3 types of the practice of forbearance. Forbearance that is take the form of being indifferent to harms caused by others upon you. Forbearance in the form of willfully taking upon oneself hardships and suffering in the face of a pursuit. And forbearance derived from deeply reflecting upon the teachings, the Dharma. So Shantideva has explained these different practices of forbearance, out of which the first 2 are the most important cultivation of forbearance. So he's explaining that for someone who has cultivated these practices of forbearance, then he or she will be able to maintain a state which becomes, which is able to withstand against the obstacles that normally undermine one's enthusiasm and one's effort. And so when one is able to overcome the obstacles that normally undermine our level of effort, and also one is able to increase the force of zeal and effort, then the success on the path will remain continuous. And so here he's explaining that why do we need such joyous effort. He explains that because awakening is established with zeal, and in other words, without such effort, there is no possibility of attaining awakening.
단체다 준주 잠발라 준주 전에 꾸보우주 저거게 레면도 와. 그 남준 대배터네 또 준주 잠과 힘을. 자, 근데 인도 전에 당년의 준주기 미준쇼디 다 파시 가서 시험했잖아요. 미준쇼디 바다 독도 님보다야. 될 때는 에네 준주 또 게. 에네 무시 준주 잡에 가도리야 다 다 즉 때문에 또 무슨 이들만 다 통용도 하상이야. 다 이들 준주 잡다 해보고 해야 돼.
So when we talk about cultivating and applying joyous effort, we should understand that we're not talking about someone who's trying to apply a kind of a force and exertion with a kind of a sense of foolhardiness. That's not really the practice here. Actually, the application of joyous effort needs a very refined and a sophisticated way of applying the faculty of effort. And in order to do that, first of all, one must be able to identify what are the factors that would obstruct the development of such joyous effort. And then once you have recognized these, then one needs to then understand what are the specific antidotes that would act against these specific types of obstacles, and on the basis of the application, then the actual practice of joyous effort is explained later in this chapter, where Shantideva talks about application of certain forces, the forces derived from the support and so on, and allies and so on.
Yeah, that lelo ya lelo riksumche nyomleki lelos. Ta mo gyuche de pe korre. Da dine chao ngenshi gi lelos la de gochibu me denge. Ta da se chase da de ya ji. Ta yana be ji 가서 풀 너가 여den게. 직진 데리. 다 시부 kursun 챈체야. 이 chao ngenshi gi lelo. 다지네 지금 남라라야지 배는 장미숨도 사사사로 지금 된대게 배다 남멍구 지금 전주선도 고셔주도 사람들 지금 고인도 사네 와다 된대는 가용 그래 참 소소소 배다 가서 우리 배야 심수배 차 그러다 차진에 배는 소소소 뭐네 지다 소소 리얼리스틱 소지제디 차진에 상당히 제디 거다 디시비 리기가 간다지 님부 기rum이 봐. 님부 깨베 더기 배는 방저 봉rum이 버스 그 차이디 양이 실지 말이나 야 sem나로야 그 shum베레로디 리도와. 사실은 인도산에 다 레로스메 버리스. 냠레 레로 가서 정황의 시기레로 아니 shum베레로 쓰면 버리스.
So the main obstacles that are identified that obstruct the application and cultivation and development of joyous effort are the three forms of indolence or laziness. One is the laziness in the form of procrastination, and the second is the laziness in the form of kind of a habitual indulgence in unproductive things. So this may include simply just, exerting unnecessary effort in pursuits that have no real meaning, or it could be pursuits that are actually harmful for one's own personal interest. So these are understood to be the second type of laziness. And the third form of laziness is identified as a form of discouragement, a lack of confidence. So for example, when one reads about or hears about the various levels of the path and the Bodhisattvas practices, and also one hears about the Bodhisattvas armor-like kind of a armor-like effort, armor-like joyous effort. One may feel that, well, these are such difficult things, I'll never be able to accomplish these things. So in one sense, that kind of attitude may reflect a certain degree of kind of realism, but on the other hand, sometimes these may also reflect a form of lack of confidence. So in these cases, one needs to reflect deeply upon the presence of Buddha nature in all of us, and also the fact that the afflictions and the pollutants of the mind are removable, that there are powerful antidotes that can be cultivated within to apply against these afflictions and the mental pollutants. So in these ways, one needs to cultivate a sense of confidence so that one does not slide into this third form of laziness in the form of discouragement. So these are the three main forms of, three main obstacles to the cultivation and development of joyous effort.
Yeah. Na nyomle lelo seyaga tanjor nyega tsala longmeba yelo kombe tsende nangshe to sonan shingi nyomle lelo seyada dilsan darisha.
So in order to counter the laziness in the form of procrastination, it is important to reflect upon the preciousness of the human existence and the transient, impermanent nature of that. For example, as Tsongkhapa explains in his three principal aspects of the path, he says that by contemplating the preciousness of the human life, and then how there is, that one's life does not possess any kind of, infinite time, one should overcome excessive preoccupations with the concerns of this life. So, in fact, these two contemplations on the preciousness of human existence and the transient, impermanent nature can act as an antidote against both the first two forms of laziness, procrastination, and excessive habitual indulgence in a kind of unproductive pursuits. So then from stanza 17 onwards, Shantideva is explaining the antidotes that one can apply against the laziness in the form of discouragement. So here we read in stanza 17, Shantideva writes, should be practiced without the discouragement of thinking, how could I possibly attain awakening? For the truth-speaking Tathagata proclaimed this truth. Even those who were gadflies, mosquitoes, bees, and worms attained supreme awakening, which is difficult to attain through the power of their effort. So Shantideva is explaining here that even the insects and these creatures possess Buddha nature in them. And furthermore, the reason why the Buddha nature is present in them is that even the deluded states of mind these sentient beings possess, they are all ultimately rooted in the grasping at delusion in the form of grasping at self-existence and true existence. And since this root grasping is distorted with respect to the ultimate nature of reality, so in principle, all the afflictions and the root itself are removable from the essential nature of mind. And furthermore, since all of these are sentient creatures, they also possess a consciousness, and the essential nature of mind is this innate clear light. And so in any sentient creature that possesses this quality of clear light possesses also the potential for Buddhahood. So this, for example, Maitreya explains in his Sublime Continuum, Uttara Tantra, where he says that the pollutants are adventitious, and yet the mind, as far as the enlightened qualities of the Buddha's mind are concerned, they are naturally present in the mind of sentient beings. So this being the case in general, then Shantideva explains that he writes in stanza 19, human by birth and capable of knowing what is beneficial and what is not, why could I not attain an awakening as long as I do not forsake the guidance of the omniscient one? So, having made the point that in general, all sentient beings possess Buddha nature and they have the potential for Buddhahood. So in the case of human beings in particular, who are equipped with the understanding of the norms of what is right and what is wrong, and then furthermore, the human beings have this capacity to attain enlightenment.
다양 정주섭에 잡아를 두자네 지 가소리 변을 류동하다 지 된제기다 또바집에서 장기 변하다 그 중럽날에 중럽서울에다 가다 그 잔원날에 된제 요하래다 또 뒤에 서로 뒤까지 가고 싶어요 삼천대 지 다양 뒤는 무시우지 다 된제기 상관에 쉬부지야 지 다양 아도가 자 내일도 전에 다 고도 까나로서 고도 까나 동화로서 지대주 제디 디시함데다 데도 솔로가 니슈장아 처음으로서 진반랑 전배 통문을 좋아한데 대로 검내 치는 림지랑 그 샤동 강지랑 그 류는 최소 대비로 제 지지샤로 쏘도가 들어가고 지시였어 로칼에 집을 충중하나 집을 충원 야나 내바지 림베 야지다 가서 우리 그게 쇠버는 시간에 좀 된데 또 센다 지야레스 토마 로 충문 내가라 텔라바고 냐면지야 로 딩도 주변 내가라 텔라바고 냐면지야 로 초도 주변 내가라 텔라바고 냐면지야 송요 말도 내가 당구반에 갈래 가오티 치세 송요 말이스 림게 로 관변 내가라 로 충문 거도라 로유로 마셔야지 로 관변왕게 아니 로 초도 주변 내가라 때라도 좋어야지 나도 냠냠 것인 것도 와 따로 자신의 보고 충중지기 나한테 킨더가든나 유행 보고 지리야 안더직 스페이스크래프트 지도 나가지 게시하기는 별로 고 배야마도 야말 봐 이네 고 갈래 롭존 챤네 코라야 시제 롭존이야 지고 차수 수윤데 단 역도 사고도 이디에 고 라라오지 고 차대야 정도 와 와다 고 듣는 신세네 오늘 다들 예수
So then in stanza 25 onwards, Shantideva explains further thought processes that would help one deal with the problem of discouragement. So discouragement can again arise on the basis of the following two facts. One is when you read about and when you come to understand the various challenges and that the Bodhisattvas need to confront, including involving making charity or giving of one's own body and parts of the body and so on to other sentient beings. For example, if you read the Buddha's previous life stories in the Jataka tales, there are stories of Buddha having undergone these kind of practices. So when one confronts these kind of presentations, in the face of that, one might feel totally discouraged, thinking that I'll never be able to handle that kind of challenges. Another a potential for arising of discouragement is when you come to understand the time scale that is involved, and then again thinking about the time scale, one may feel, no, I'll never be able to do this. So Shantideva explains with respect to the first. In stanza 25, he writes, at the beginning, the guide prescribes giving vegetables and the like. One does it gradually so that later one can give away even one's own flesh. So the point Shantideva is making is that the skillful teacher, the Buddha, the enlightened Buddha, did not demand that all the practitioners should do everything in one go. In fact, he taught teachings that are most appropriate to the level of capacity and mental faculty of the individual practitioners. So the teachings is presented in such a way that it guides the practitioner on the path in the most kind of, appropriate manner, so that so not all the things that needs to be practiced by someone who is on the beginner's path. However, as one becomes more and more habituated and becomes progressed on the path and advancing further on the path, then something that may have seemed so impossible at one point may now appear because of the advances one has made, and something that is doable, in fact something quite easy. To give a simple analogy, for example, if we try to explain the concept of spacecraft to a kindergarten kid, of course the kid will be totally confused. However, as the child grows up, goes through education, undergoes education, and becomes more and more learned, then there will come a point when for that child, the concept of spacecraft is actually quite easy to understand. So you can see how, as the mind progresses, something that may seem so impossible even to imagine, even to conceive, at some point becomes actually quite normal and easy. So Shantideva is making this point here.
뭐야? 니네 이거 방식 동네미 캐베치는 메가메스. 디들 로버트 와서 디베스인데 룰은 인제 소남기네 룰들라 캐바이네 셈데나스. 다 소남 사베 겐게 저기 룰이 동네도 저리 시다나게 가소래. 근데 전술래 당고들래 표지 닝도 삼배 개발게 특별 개발 요소래다. 사고로도요. 아니 개발스전에 저기 가서로 그게 단동 규모대로 출시해서 되게 더거지게 지금 심리야래. 동네 마요야. 되게 개발 요소래. 사고로도요. 닝시 삼바데 이르잖아. 코쳐서 삼배 로양이 이르잖아. 개발이네 셈되나 셴도 코 내장네 니지자다 지리교스. din이 전주 생각이 뭐지 되고 세세생 소담자수 뒤지실 년도 남에 초도 셔. 그러나 다 대외 경험 근세에 신수입니다. 되는 대원도 심시 수시 기론도 어디 소샤.
So then Shantideva explains in stanza 27 onwards another line of thought processes where he says that secondly also we can think in the following lines when he writes in stanza 27, on account of abandoning vices, one does not suffer, and on account of being wise, one does not become troubled in mind, for mental pain is due to false conceptions, and bodily pain is due to non-virtuous actions. So what Shantideva is explaining here is that the attitude and the state of mind of the person who is undergoing these hardships and challenges is going to have a powerful impact upon how one deals with them. For even on the beginner's level, Bodhisattvas who have tremendous courage and determination may be able to endure the hardships involved in the course of the path, and including physical hardships with a degree of greater acceptance, and particularly so, for example, if they have a very powerful compassion in them, the compassionate mindset is going to have an effect on reducing the intensity of the pain they're experiencing. And similarly, Shantideva refers to the wise perspective here. Here he's referring to the Bodhisattvas who are capable of perceiving all events in an illusion-like manner, bringing in the perspective of understanding of emptiness. Again, these kind of perspectives is going to have an impact on how one deals with the hardships and the physical pain that may be involved in the course of the path. So then he writes in stanza 28, he writes, the body is well on account of merit, and the mind is joyful on account of wisdom. What can afflict and compassionate one who stays in the cycle of existence for the sake of others? And then he writes, extinguishing precious vices and accumulating oceans of merit, owing to the power of awakening mind alone, one moves ahead of the disciples. And then he makes the final statement when he says, by riding the horse of awakening mind, which dispels all forms of despondency and weariness, what sensible person would despair at progressing in this way from joy to joy?
다가는 신경 고불루기 리지차나리아 아니 심기 고쳐서 산다 로지베 이나 아니 딘디지기 나네 주주 그저 신비이네 강하게 말바스 나 생각나 무슨 하고 싶으시베 있네 주주 톤도지 미스베 쳐도 와스 대송도.
So similarly, Nagarjuna makes a very important point in Precious Garland when he says that in the face of challenges and hardships, if at the mental level the individual feels a sense of fulfillment, by confronting the challenges and the hardships, so with that kind of attitude, then one is able to bear the challenges, even if it takes very long time. But on the other hand, in the face of a challenge, if one feels totally frustrated and kind of overwhelmed, then even though the period may be very short, it feels as if it's very long. So the state of mind is going to make a big difference. And earlier I forgot, His Holiness made the point that a Bodhisattva practitioner, because of his tremendous compassion, when confronts physical hardships and the pain in the course of helping others, may also, generate the thought, yes, I am now making my existence meaningful, purposeful.
Yeah. That digi gajin lelosayach.
So up to this point, Shantideva has explained how to deal with the obstacles, which is the laziness, how to deal with these obstructive factors. So then, from this point onwards, Shantideva explains how to create the conditions that are conducive for the arising of joyous effort.
So
before we create the conditions that are conducive for the arising of joyous effort, we need to take lunch.
Good. 진기다 최대 삼월로 규이 상황전에 규대에 랑기 규이 상황전에 전에 인도산에 다다다대 민주베 내주디에 그 중남아가면 지기다 제발 되네요. 다가는 차도에 지 튜년배 야 게임하고 지금 때네 용대. 그래서 이제 뭐 인도산에 대왕의 대왕이 무균되고 통이 들어서나 제고상에 가 있네. 라마보다 용대하지 차대기 아래. 그래서 이제 인도산에 저들이 뭐 인도 대들시 라마보다 에스 대들시에 주된 시대다 되기 다 경제 된중 뒤따라 손 경제 된중 뒤 주지를 거지 아니 때문에 라왕도 주고 야마리 나란솔 라왕도 오는 것도 가 능기도디 대응 엄마라 견서 두면 척게 되는 용대야지 공단으로 쏘는 신 경제 땐지 두면씩 손에 팔을 잡아봐 추도랑 제다 되는 땡주 동벌 시 쏘는 시리샤 그래서 리면 이르잖아요 다 리인도 나와도 뭐 주고 아니 주고도 그래스 와 유모도 주고서 있잖아요 그 현지 거셔지 그러랑 라왕 주도 주고 뭐 그 현지 주셔 현지 거셔 그래서 이르잖아요 상당히 다다도 급대 다가다 냠바리 소소 콘로사세 유 깽에버디 삼월로 그 깽을 때는 용대바 주것도 그래스 뒤은도 전에 제대로신의 주대를 무국군도 초민주로 세네 디소 나와나 상불에 아니 주것도 그래 상불셔리 뒤에 심지어 주것도 그래 엔 텔레 저거 하게도 봐 동네에 저것도 이두선에 제 동네에 나와라 미수가 이렇게 들어왔어 라바이나 디샴디 컨시 관계 도차데 도방을 그 민셔너스 도저 동네 도지다 가서를 그게 지금 참발로 써 지들 제디에 양은 도저 공조 그러나 뒤도지 지금 참바 뒤에 주문도 물어봤어 자들이 이두선에 인도 그렇게 들어왔어나 디마레스 잘때는 동네는 균식 균주 뮤직 믹스 가사 사실 그거 조심입니다 당연히 지도 rum도돼 간다시 때려야 주니 시행도 전에 통모데 머리 걸어 그 치즈로 올라래도 와 이네 치즈로 딘디지 그게 레지 사서도 전에 레테 단 드고 동네들이 그걸 패널이 되는지 그 용대하지로 그 두고도 đảm바지지 말해 그 가서 우리 그게 치즈로 올라서 샤대요 이네 그런 건 아니지 니리니리 써야 나로래야 네 그게 패널에서 용대하지 참말로 치즈 말로 걸려 잡게 되면 도와 그다음 지단으로 샤베이나 양다고도 이디 로 소르네베 토네 용대야 로 릉시베 토네 용대야 망체 배지 참만 샤초리 다 차당로 쏘고 딘제기 왕기 용대베 이디 하 야구 삼다바이나 다 주변 지단시에는 주변로서 토그래라 다 14고 전에 친실로로 딘제기 왕기 용대베지 그래서 세면 흉내 배정을 안서 뇌제
are utterly dependent origination, and they too are, as explained before, subject to the dependent origination of causes and conditions. However, because the sufferings and the afflictions are rooted in a state of mind that is distorted, and once the distortion arises, it creates the action, and the action has consequences that impact upon the individuals who experience it. Say, for example, in the 60 stanzas of Nagarjuna, Nagarjuna explains that within the chain of 12 links of dependent origination, the first link is ignorance. And ignorance indicates a state of mind that is distorted with respect to the nature of reality. And as a result of that distortion, although that ignorance itself is incorrect in its perception of the world, but because of the distortion, it creates action, karmic action, and the karmic action has real consequences of harm and benefit to the person who has committed it. So therefore, although when you search for the intrinsic nature, these actions and so on may not be findable, but given the distortion that is involved, it creates karmic action, and these actions have consequences. So Shantidevas explained here, basically explaining the illusion-like nature of reality. So although they are devoid of inherent existence, but yet at the same time they do have consequences. Therefore, they have a reality, they have existence. So in this way, the extremes of absolutism and extremes of nihilism are both negated. So, and also if we examine our everyday life, we can see that many of the things that we do that are wrong are actually rooted in some false way of understanding reality. So for example, when we react negatively and emotionally to events out of aversion, anger, attachment, and so on, then these actions are grounded in a perspective that is quite contrary to the actual nature of reality. However, many of the things that we successfully achieve in our life, they tend to be more rooted in a perspective that is more in accord with reality. Therefore, in the Buddhist epistemological texts, many of our achievements are referred to as fruits of knowledge. And so, for example, the epistemological text speaks of fruits of knowledge that are uninterrupted fruits and interrupted fruits. The notion of interrupted fruits result is quite a complex one, but the point is that all the achievements that we are seeking and that we experience are either directly or indirectly results of a knowledge and understanding.
Yeah. So, Tata Tamcha Shenjiwang said that the Doran Yanashun Sun Yuzane, Diebe, Dijums, Dikebe, Dikebe, Chetajagoyene, Nachavena, Kagamuda, Diebana, Dijum, Dikebana, Diki. Kang Mariba, Yana, Dushi, Senda Sunsha, Dumin Duchi, Dushi, Senda Sunsha. How did you get a rather Sundua? 체면적으로 전에 응원도 열린이자도 체면적으로 쏘는 것도 봐. 체제 바로 쉐베. 되네. 체면적으로 바로 마시베 체면적으로 바로 마시베 체면적으로 세냐 또 사오래. 사실은 인도산에 레드고 친구로 올라지는데 그 레드산에 드부미도서는 꼭 패는 모습 되는 게 저도 와. 그래서 되게 그 담바 매버리티 이내 그 가서래. 담바 신댕에게 로치질로 대왕게 대부 패는 되듯이 그 영향에 진짜 뒤잖아. 여도 와. 그래서 탄이 세야 되게 다되게 땅도 세야. 샤마되게 차도 세야 소리도 와. 야는 따기 다른 답을 못 줘야지. 탄에도 념에도 여자시 있어.
So we read from stanza 31 where Shantideva writes that thus everything is dependent on something else, and even that on which something is dependent is not autonomous. Hence, why would one get angry at things that are inactive, like apparitions? So here, earlier we discussed how, having presented all the factors that give rise to anger, the conditions and so on, as arising within the context of complex a network of causes and conditions, we also talked about how Shantideva raises the possible objection from the standpoint of non-Buddhist classical Indian schools that postulate the notion of an absolute agency as being the primary cause. So here, what Shantideva is presenting is that when, for example, something like anger arises in us, anger has its own underlying causes that may go very far, but even within its immediate circumstances, there are many factors that give rise to the anger. So, in a sense, these afflictive emotions arises without any sense of control on the part of the person who is experiencing them. And so with respect to the perpetrators of harm who engage in harmful actions out of these afflictive states, one can recognize that, in a sense, they have no control. You know, they're all totally subject to the forces of the causes and conditions. And then Shantideva explains that once you recognize this utterly contingent and dependent reality of the arising of these afflictions, then you will come to recognize a kind of a quality that is more like a conjuration, that's more like a mirage. So when you say apparitions or when you say particularly conjuration, which is probably a better term, then immediately it creates the idea of something that is kind of falsely constructed. So once you come to recognize that, then he explains that one will not feel such anger towards these factors. And then one can raise the question, if that is the case, then the same must be true also of the more positive mental states such as loving kindness, compassion, and so on. Wouldn't these also be like apparitions? Wouldn't these also be like mirages? Because they too will be utterly contingent. So in that case, why should one cultivate compassion? Why should one be concerned about the sufferings of others? So here, Shantideva responds in stanza 32, averting anger is inappropriate for who averts what? What is appropriate because it is a state of dependent origination and is considered to be the cessation of suffering. So Shantideva is responding here by saying that yes, these positive mental states too
야, 다 서벨로 난데 서로 소지.
So we will continue from our reading of chapter 6, the chapter on forbearance, and we will read from stanza 31. And this is on page 65. Yeah.
대저 이제 신기왕 대왕의 대왕의 대저 신의 뒤에 뭐고도 초민주 시대되게 디실과 다른데 이게 따라 지금 민주배 저게 다 남주 용대야 민주배 자와 용대야 생각을 돼 상황으로 땡겨온 그래. 에? 다 모두변 되고 되리 막가. 하다 라오요 말이 사트마 줍체. 대들 참제 가서 보다 가다 균제 땡지기